Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another video. How are you doing? It's tough, right? Yeah, it's definitely tough, but we will get through it. I'm wishing you nothing but happiness and health. This too shall pass. All right, so last year I recorded an interview with the absolutely brilliant author Kiese Laymon. He wrote Heavy, an American Memoir, and in this interview we talked about masculinity, we talked about addiction, we talked about bodies, and I was going to use it for another project that never quite materialized, but this was so good I knew I could not scrap it. I had to share it with the world. This has been up on Patreon for a few months and I've got nothing but effusive praise for it. Like, everybody has raved, and it's not because of me. It's because Kiese was so vulnerable. He was so honest. He was so real. Oh, he's the best interview. The best. So listen to this. I'm also going to make this available as a downloadable podcast. That's going to be in the description box. You guys just take some time to soak in the brilliance. I wanted to talk to you because I loved Heavy, but I loved your writing even before Heavy came out. Like, I was obsessed with it. But I just thought Heavy was so interesting and transgressive in interesting ways. So I wanted to discuss it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the book. You watch Insecure?
I do.
So you know that, like, on Insecure, there's this idea introduced by Tasha of, like, the fuckboy who thinks he's a good dude.
Yeah.
You know? And so it just seems like from reading your book, like at one point you were the fuckboy who thought he was a good dude.
Oh, shit. I think it's a little, I don't know if I was ever, I don't know if I ever thought I was a good dude after 11th grade.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta be, I'm trying to critique, like, that desire for a lot of people I know to think we are good dudes and to be treated as good dudes and to manipulate based on the fact that some people treat us like good dudes. But after 11th grade, I kind of did not think I thought I was a good dude in 11th grade. And after 11th grade, I don't think I was a good dude. And, and I was a women's studies major, among other things, in college, but I kind of knew I wasn't what I would consider a good dude. But I think that is an archetype that needs to be broken down. You know what I mean? Like, I think I did good things sometimes. I think I did terrible things other times. But I just didn't, like, after 11th grade, I just didn't know what it meant to be a good dude. And I just didn't think I was one. I thought I was trying to be a good person, a good human, but I didn't think I was a good dude after 11th grade.
But you were trying, especially with your engagement with, like, Black feminism and women's studies.
Well, I wasn't, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think is complicated. I wasn't trying to be a good dude. Like, I was trying to be, like, I read a lot of shit, so I was just trying to be a better human being. Like, and that meant to me that you needed to think critically about fucking the way, like, the nation and the world and the state is put together. And that, for me, like, there was nothing, I didn't feel anything as a student that felt like as, like, exhilarating as, the very first time you read Bell Hooks or, From Artist to Center, or the very first time you read Audre Lorde. Like, that shit, like, made me understand that the world I was living in, it gave me words to understand these feelings. But, like, a lot of people, it was really hard to fucking, like, put that Black feminist theory into Black feminist practice in every part of your life. And I failed. Like, probably differently than most people, but I failed like most people fail. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's, so.
I'm fascinated by the distinction that you're drawing in your mind between striving to be a good person versus trying to be a good dude. It seems like there's, like, a distinct construction of, like, the quote good dude that you are pushing back against.
Well, because I think the bar is so low. I think to be a good dude sometimes, like, to be like, growing up how I grew up, like, I talk about this shit in the book, like, not, you can be a good dude by, like, never fucking coming on to a woman, right? Like, you can be a good dude. Like, that, you can be perceived as a good dude. But, like, if you're in a relationship with someone, whether you started it or not, and then you fucking, like, fuck that person over, fuck that woman over. Like, I think at that point we need to go beyond like whether or not you're a good dude or not, and think about what it means to be like, you know, invested in like being a manipulative human, and what it means to be the opposite of that, which is be like a good human being. And so for me, as a young person, I just knew, I don't know how else to say it. Like, I just knew after 11th grade, like I wanted to be more than a good dude, but I definitely wasn't even a good dude after 11th grade. And also so I'll just leave it right there.
I had a lot of conversations recently about men, you know, men who are trying to be good and the way that they adopt the feminist label or the womanist label. And in some of those conversations, the women I know are, they don't like it when men, especially publicly, adopt those labels or use them as a part of their brand, because it feels like they use those labels to evade accountability. And do you think that there is usefulness in publicly adopting, if you are a man, a feminist or womanist identity, and like what kind of usefulness can there be beyond self-promotion or self-congratulation?
Man, that's a big question. I mean, I think for all people, and I guess you asked specifically about like, I guess cisgender men, I think the work has to be grappling with the shit, but I think the work has to be grappling, right? Like, and you grapple however you grapple. But I think it gets complicated, because I think whether or not I call myself a black feminist or somebody other boy calls himself a black feminist, I think, again, because the bar for being a good man is so low, I think when people just see people doing that work, even if we fail at that shit, I think sometimes the perception from ourselves, and definitely from other people, is that like, oh, this is a good one because they doing that work. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, that's why I think it's tricky. Like, I think the public shit becomes tricky because, like, you know, with that book, I mean, most of the shit that drew me to that book to write, like the three big things, like did not end up in the book. But the last thing, which I think is important in this conversation, I had written, and, you know, it was in the draft, and it was like, the first part was about like experiences with sexual violence with older people, older women. The second part was experiences with like my violent response to like my mother being assaulted. And then and all that shit got taken out of the book. And then the last part was like my investment in like emotionally abusing, particularly like someone who would have done everything to not emotionally abuse me. And ultimately in that draft, what I came to was like, I believed in my mind, I was like, this is the worst thing I have ever done. And then when I started to write that shit out, I was like, yo, you've done a whole lot of fuck shit, right? Like, and so, you know, and that might make me a fuck boy or not, but I think it gets complicated because on one hand, what I thought was like, if you just cop to the fucked up shit that you have done, not even wrestle with it, but just like list it, like that will let people know that you're not trying to give yourself a pass. Right. But I think it gets complicated because sometimes people who you've harmed don't want that specific kind of rendering out there in the world.
Right.
And so I don't know how to say it other than like, you know, so for me, you know, like it became apparent that it would not have been right to like completely talk scene by scene about, you know, what I had written about like emotionally harming someone who I was dishonest to, and then fucking being honest about it in a book. And then the person, one of the people who this person let me know that they did not want their name or anything like that in the book. So then it's like, well, how do you still let readers know that you are completely implicated in that, in the culture that you're critiquing, without like talking about it on a scenic level. And I try to do that because I think it's bigger than one relationship or one whatever. But I do think it's complicated. So I'm not trying to be out here, I'm not trying to be out here promoting myself as no like black feminist, like, whatever the fuck. But I know that like the work you do can put you in that category of people who look like they're maybe self-promoting.
Yeah, I mean, it can feel like a performance,
right? But I guess what I'm saying is like it is what's interesting to me. It's like what is the it? Is the it retweeting something that your homegirl said? Is the it retweet something feminist and subversive? Is the it like writing some shit that appears to be draped in a particular kind of feminism? And what I think is what I'm trying to say is like, Black feminism to me at its root was about wrestling with the shit, not just performing. And I just feel like when you start to really wrestle with the ways that lots of people who call themselves Black feminists spend a lifetime like undermining other Black women, and most of those people I think are cisgender men, and a lot of those people are not as well. I think about if you think about the ways like we all engage in like real talk abuse of real people and structurally. But what I'm saying is like we live in a culture where even to say that sentence is gonna put you in a category for some people, and some people are gonna laud you for saying that sentence. And then when you get lauded for saying that sentence, I think some other people are gonna be like, fuck that nigga for saying that sentence. He ain't shit. And that might be true. You know what I'm saying? That might be true. But I just think I'm just trying to say it's something to wrestle with because, and I think that's why you're talking to me. But the wrestling with it is hard, and being accountable, obviously, in your daily life and how you treat people, and also when you realize you fucked up. I mean, for me, like man, when in relationships that I have been in, where I have been, I haven't been in a lot of relationships in my life, romantic or sexual, but the relationships that I have been in, where I have been like wholly fucking wrong and done something to someone that they would never do to me, it's like another part about accountability is like, what the fuck does that shit look like? Like, what does accountability look like? And it's like, I'm an old ass nigga, and it took me to like 40 something to realize sometimes accountability means, you're not gonna ever be anything other than a piece of shit or fuck motherfucker to this person, so leave them the fuck alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it took me a while to understand that accountability sometimes is like literally leaving motherfuckers alone. But I think it is paradoxical because like, so you do a book like, or art object like I tried to create, and so there was a part of me that was like, I'm trying to do the right thing here, but like, can you really do the right thing if it's driven by like corporate money? I'm not sure. Like, so I'm really saying like it's open-ended for me.
Yeah, I think this is such a good, let's keep going down here. So there is a lot of Black girl and Black woman trauma in this book. And when I read it, I felt those traumas viscerally, maybe because I'm a Black woman and I have experienced some of those things and am so intimately connected to other women who've experienced those things. And a central part of this book is you reckoning with the harm that you've done, the harm that you've witnessed, the harm that you've enabled. But in order to do that in a book form, you have to reveal it. And then you are subsequently commodifying it, making money off of it, building a public profile off of it. And I wonder, you said it's open-ended, it feels paradoxical, but how are you dealing with the tension between wanting to be accountable, but ultimately you are benefiting from that?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm a language person, so I think that ultimately is like the important part of what you just said to me, because I think ultimately, like I am. Well, first of all, I think that the book is doing everything you said it's doing in terms of like thinking about the way culture and me as a part of culture have harmed and been harmed by like a Black woman, for example, who was a woman, but who was also a parent, right? So I'm talking about parental abuse in that book as much as I'm talking about anything else. So I think it's complicated because for me, it's not like just ultimately I'm benefiting from like, talking about my role in harming Black women. I think that is true, but I think there's some other shit in that book that, other than that, that I'm ultimately benefiting from, that might be important to me, because I think all those things intersect. But like, I mean, fam, like, I think like most people who create art, like, you don't know if a book is gonna like stick. And I get torn because, like, you know, like if you had to break down, you know, this book has done well and exceeded a whole lot of people's expectation, but like the people who I think have most invested in that book and my going around this country and the world now have been Black women. Yeah. And some of them Black women have held me accountable, right? Like, tried to hold me and them accountable by being like, you know, lots of shit, lots of stuff people have said. So I don't. I mean, this is the capitalist conundrum. Like, if you think like your mission is to use your whatever platform to create art or to tell some semblance of truth, like, what do we do with the fact that truth is also being commodified, right? Yeah. And so you can reap a benefit from telling the truth, and if that truth is also about like harming other people and or you being harmed, are you commodifying harm? And I think on one degree, I'm absolutely commodifying harm in that book. Yeah. But I hope that I'm asking people, and when I go around the country talking about the product, I hope I'm trying to get people to think about how I don't know what the fuck to do with that shit, to tell you the truth, but also how it is something that I thought a lot about, and how a lot of that went into like the editorial process in terms of cutting some shit out of the book. But I don't know, fam. Like, I know I don't want to be someone who like makes a living like showing like vulnerable people's fucking pain. Right. But I also don't want to be an artist who is like somehow isn't invested in really thinking through like the ways. I'm discouraged to do that. Most of my life, I haven't been encouraged to think and talk about the ways that I have benefited from other people's pain, or the ways I've invested in cis-hetero picture. Like that's not like some shit that like I was taught to do. And I just have to make sure that it's not a hustle. Right. You know what I'm saying? But that's that private shit. That's like that private shit at night, what you doing, and also I think it's like what you do with the spoils of the shit you get. Yep. Like who are you having honest conversations with people who wants to have honest conversations with you? Because I don't think we should be burdening motherfuckers with like all of our shit if people don't want to go there. But like, are you using, you know, if it's money, if it's influence, to actually like encourage, you know, people who have been disproportionately harmed to have the same sort of like possibilities and avenues that you do. And in that way, I can say that's something that I know I do that. Like, I know I'm good at sharing shit. But to me, like, that's easy. To me, it's easy to share every last dime of money I got, because I know I'm okay being broke, but I know I'm also going to continue to make more money. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, Kimberly. Like, that's the hardest question anybody ever asked me about this book. I don't know.
I think that, first of all, I'm asking you because I'm trying to figure this out too. I think it's right. Definitely difficult. And something that really came up for me as I was reading the book is you're talking about the abuse that you've experienced at the hands of your mother. And anybody can do a little bit of research and find out who your mother is. And I think about this a lot when I'm talking about my own experiences, whether it be with people I have dated, people I am friends with, used to be friends with, stuff that happened to me in my home as a kid. It's not too hard for people to figure out who I'm talking about. And I wonder if you have concerns about the consequences of you telling your story, you telling your truth and being completely honest, which is your right, but also you are, whether you like it or not, you're exposing other people in the process. And how do you deal with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but I think the book is about like wrestling with that. And I think you'd be shocked at how many people don't know who my mama is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I come up to events, and people are like, how come you never used your mama's name in the book? And me and my mama have different last names.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, to write that book, I had to sit down with my mom and ask a ton of questions, and ultimately, like, she was okay with most of the shit that was put out in that book. I mean, she would have rather me not written that book, not just for her, but because she I'm her child, and she doesn't think that's a safe book for me to write as a black boy to her. To her, I'm always going to be a black boy. But in terms of keeping other people in that book safe, like, I tried to talk to people. I mean, I did talk to a number of people who were in that book, particularly if we're just talking about women. I talked to a number of people who were in that book and interviewed them to get not just would they be okay with what I'm writing, but like to help me refine the memory. Like, I'll be like, yo, I remember we were at so-and-so house, and I remember this happening, and what do you remember? And everybody I talked to, the only question that was like the same, and everybody I talked to was like, what does your body remember when blank? And then sometimes people will be like, well, my body doesn't remember shit because my body doesn't remember that shit the same way you do, right? So then you have to like listen to what they say and then try to create some art based off somebody else's perception of truth and your perception of truth. But like, I did want to, it's weird. Like, I needed to write that book ultimately for me and my mama because we had stopped loving each other. And fam, like, believe you, I mean, I'm not sure about many things on earth, but I did a lot and everything I think I could to write that book in a way that was like respectful of my mama. Mm-hmm. And I think definitely of some other vulnerable people in that book, but definitely my mama, because I feel like, our relationship is the engine of that shit. And again, like I said, I don't know if do you ask that question partially because you feel like there are people who I wrote about in that book who feel harmed and hurt by how it was written and what I wrote?
No, I think it's always a possibility when you are recounting painful or potentially traumatic events in people's lives. And I'm not necessarily talking here about your relationship with your mother, but other people, other girls and women, that it could dredge up some things that maybe are uncomfortable for them. But I'm also asking because I know how much my mother does not want me to talk about the fucked up shit that I think that she did when I was a kid, or the fucked up shit that I think that she continues to do. And if I did not want to continue having a connection with her and a relationship with her, then it would be different. But like, we see each other twice a month. I mean, and we have to hang out all the time. And I enjoy that, and I want that. And so I am trying to find the balance of, I gotta tell the truth, and this is the truth. I'm trying to tell people how I got here, and this is how I got here. But also, I love you, and I care for you, and I care about your feelings.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is that for me and my mama, like, I want to get to that point. I wanted to get back to that point where we could, I mean, when I say we stopped loving each other, like, we stopped loving each other.
Yeah.
For reasons that have to do with different kinds of addiction, for reasons that have to do with all kind of shit that happened when we were younger that we both experienced and didn't talk about. And my mama, again, like, my mama, because she taught me how to write, because she taught me how to read, like, in some way, this was me trying to make an art piece of art for my mama to give us an opportunity to talk about shit that we hadn't talked about. And also to let my mama know shit about me that she didn't know. You know what I mean? That's the fucked up thing about, like, these relationships. They're not, like, as you know, like, they don't go just one direction, right? Like, my mama didn't know I was a gambling addict. You know what I'm saying? My mama didn't know she did not know, like, because I was giving her, like, she didn't know for lots of reasons. My mama was one of these black mamas who, like, when I'm in a relationship with any woman, my mama's initial impulse is like, that woman is doing you dirty. Part of that is because I'm her son. You know what I'm saying? Like, part of that is because I'm her son, but part of that is also because from the perception, like, and the way that she sees me, she's never seen me be aggressive toward women. So, like, when I'm talking in that book about, whether I'm watching motherfucking, like, listening to women get, girls when I was a kid get harmed, abused, or if I'm, not taking that fucking women's study shit to heart at all and letting my partner fucking suffer at the hands of, like, racism and sexism when we in college, whether it's me stealing money from my fucking partner when I was a grown-ass man, whether it's lying about that, like, part of that book to me was, like, I wanted to talk to my mama about the parts of me that she willfully did not see, and let her know some of the parts of her that I did see, and say that, like, I don't know if there's that much difference in the best of us or the worst of me and her, unless can we talk about it. That's really what I was attempting to do with that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't just about, like, telling her shit to the world, and believe me, like, she's still my black mama. Like, if there's some shit she didn't want me to put out in that book, like, really didn't want me to put out in that book, I took that shit out. If it was about her, there's a lot of shit she didn't want me to put in there about me, because this is what I think is ironic about this conversation is, like, as black mamas, it's like, you gonna fuck up your job putting that shit out there. The white folks is not gonna give you opportunity and blah, blah, blah if they see you saying that shit, right? Like, so she wanted me to scrap the entire book and do this other kind of project. So that's the only reason I'm saying it's complicated. You're asking questions that are, like, incredibly, like, rich, but it's just, like, for me, they're hard, not because I'm trying to evade, but because I'm not trying to evade, and because, like, you can't run from these questions. They're super hard questions.
No, but I think,
but I'm not.
I like that because it's not black and white. There's no yes or no. And I guess I ask muddy, murky questions because it is hard. And I'm trying to figure it out myself, and I don't know. And I use people to try to come to my own conclusions. Right. I'm sure that people who maybe have a different kind of relationship with their parents. I'm sure if you've taken this book on tour, and I was so impressed by how lovingly, like, tenderly and carefully your mother was portrayed, and she was portrayed as a full woman and a complex woman. And have people asked you why you chose to do that? I feel like it would have been easy for your mother to be portrayed as, like, a flat, like, a villain in this book. And I'm just wondering if people have asked you questions about why.
Honestly, only people ever ask that kind of question are white people. Like, they'll be like, why? Well, one, they'll be like, why do you still talk to your mama? And, when I wrote this book, I didn't think people were going to be like, this is tied to that question about people can look and find who your mother is, because the question I was not prepared for when this book came out was like, how old were you when your mama died? Or is your mama still alive? And, like, because a lot of white folks, and I think maybe black people too, but, like, they just could not understand writing a book like this to someone who was alive. And a lot of times people write these sort of, like, books after parents die and blah, 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 blah. So, people mostly ask me stuff like that. But, like, I don't know, Phil. Like, I just feel like art, I don't care what it is about. Like, it's really about, like, kind of trying to, for me, it's kind of trying to, like, not just use words like love or hate or abuse, but really get up in there and, like, I love mom. Like, I was not only, I'm going to say this shit to you because I know you and I trust you and I've never said this, but, like, with that book, what I'm trying to show in that book is, like, I more than loved my mama. I was in love with my mama in ways that were healthy, but in ways that were wholly motherfucking unhealthy. And I did not know what the fuck to do with that. And I'm not trying to talk about the shit just being purely Oedipal. I'm talking about what it means to be a young person who is in love with another person and then have that other person have to, you're watching another person be a human being, which means, like, they're falling in love with other people and they're getting harmed. And, like, in some ways, the way I loved my mama, and again, my mom was very young, is like the way I think you are supposed to love. Yeah. And that's fucked up to say, like, like you're supposed to, like, I want to love that way. Damn, fam. You like Oprah up in this motherfucker. I want to love that way. I want to love that way again, meaning, like, I want to put my heart out there. I want to put my brain out there, and I want motherfuckers to whoever the fuck, whether it's an idea or a person, I want the person to be like, yo, this shit is yours. You smash it if you want to, but it's yours. Yeah. And I had that feeling with my mama, but it was complicated. I couldn't understand why, why her boyfriend could make her so much happier in particular ways than I could. I couldn't understand how she could beat the fuck out of me when the last thing in the world I could ever want to do was touch her in a harmful way. And what I'm also trying to say is by the end of that book, what I'm trying to say, and maybe too subtextually, is like I have been in a relationship with somebody in my life who I'm not going to say loved me like I was their mama, but loved me. Loved the fuck out of me. And I did not do right by that shit. Yeah. like I did more than wrong by that shit. And I just to bring a circle, I just don't know. I'm not sure what like once you acknowledge and you are aware that you have harmed someone who would never fucking harm you in irreparable ways. I mean, I know you don't do that going forward in other relationships, but I'm not sure which. I think you just take that shit with you. Like I ate that shit. Like I ate it, like I tried to, like I ate that shit. I ate 100 pounds of that shit. I tried to take my legs out a whole lot of ways, but like that ain't it. That's not it. Like fucking yourself up because you done fuck somebody else up. And, and I also was that person who like kept on trying to talk to the motherfucking person. Like motherfuckers telling you to chill, leave them the fuck alone. They want to go on with their life. I'm just saying, fam, like, I don't know what to do, like what we're supposed to do, but I know I have done a lot of things that were absolutely wrong. Yeah. And people much more loving than me had to deal with that shit. And yeah. And I don't know.
So I have had throughout my life a long experience of being very, very close to gambling addiction. I behaved in ways that I am not proud of toward the person who I understand now is like a functioning addict. And I will say that reading your book is the first time I ever, I felt like I got it. It was the first time I really felt sympathy or empathy, despite the fact that I had such intimate experience with it. And I'm just wondering, was there any fear about sharing? I mean, people are so judgmental about addiction, no matter what form it comes in. Were you afraid to share that part of yourself?
Absolutely. Terrified. Because we, I mean, for lots of reasons, but but we black people out here, like trying to fucking to find ways to make it through the day happy or trying ways to make it through the day not sad or depressed. But we also black motherfuckers out here trying to fucking make a dollar because, our dollar ain't the same as white folk dollar. Like at least mine ain't. Like my money go to my mama, my grandma, my auntie, and my folks around me and art communities around me. Like that's who get my money. And so like when you talk about what ultimately people don't see as an addiction, like people see that shit as just like the worst of not valuing what you get from your work. And that's kind of what it is, right? Like it can be gambling. It could be fucking, having an addiction to buying, having an addiction to giving your money away with nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. I think my family kind of goes the gambling way, but I've seen other people in other people's families who, find ways to get the little money that we do accumulate and to just throw it away. But for me, it wasn't just like the money and throwing it away. It was just like the lies and how I brought somebody else who would never have entered a fucking casino into that lifestyle. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And into that fucking sad ass way of being. And it was kind of new. Like that's the thing. Like I'm not 25 or 30. Like I'm older. You know what I'm saying? And one of my very, very closest friends on earth knew what was happening with the addiction in my family and my mom long before I did. Because my mom would be like, Key, I need $2,000 by tomorrow. And and this also has to do with patriarchy because I was raised as the only man and boy in the family. So anytime anybody needed anything, I was kind of like, I believed and I was taught like it's the man's job to do that, particularly like if you're dealing with all black women who don't have partners, right? So like I was gonna get that money somehow, some way. And then, you know, my this person just was close, who's so close to me, was just like eventually had to let me know, what you think is A is really B, fam. And like, you need to do something about that because I see you doing the same shit. And I was like, man, fuck you. You don't know what's happening with me and my mama and them. And then, you know, next thing I know, I spent all my savings. I'm fucking gambling away my truck. I'm doing all these, I'm seeing my mother at the casino up in, you know, the Northeast. I don't want to talk to her because if she sees me, she might know I'm an addict. I don't want her to know that I see where she is. And, it was just not good, my G. It was just not. So yes, talking about that and trying to keep a job and also trying, you know, because, you know, what we do like is like we do what we do, and then people sometimes want to invest in us and give us money. So like when you do things that make you appear to be not good with money as a person, but especially as a black person, I think it can be not so great, you know, but that's a risk. You know, I don't have kids and shit. I'm okay with that risk right now because I am my mama's baby. I'm going to find ways to make money regardless, but it's a risk for sure. And also, can I say, as a teacher, it's a risk because, like, that's the part I didn't think about when I wrote this book. Like, you never know. Like, I don't know how you probably do know when you push it out that lots of people are going to be, like, invested in it because, you know, but I did not know that. And so, like, I just didn't think about what it would mean also to be in front of these classrooms, having all this shit about me, like, out. Like, I didn't think about what it meant for my students to read this book. And you didn't ask about that, but, like, that to me is tied to, like, one of the things that was scary about writing about gambling addiction.
Yeah. People know stuff now. Yeah.
Yeah. People know stuff now. Yeah.
I don't live paycheck to paycheck today. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But I'm definitely used to being around people who live paycheck to paycheck, even high earning Black people who live paycheck to paycheck. It was just the way of life. Yep. And I'm wondering how you're doing in unlearning those habits.
I'm not sure what you're asking, but you know, I have good. My money is real good right now. Yeah. Is that what you're asking?
No. I'm not asking. So no. I'm saying that. I'll just use me as an example. I'm good. I'm honestly, I'm not even sure I want to say that, but I'm good, right? But I feel impulses in one of the reasons why I feel like I dress well. I would say that I dress well is because I spend up all my money. I spend money like it's going out of style. And so I have had to retrain myself and being like, it's okay. You don't have to buy everything just because there's money in your bank account. You don't have to get it all today just because you're worried that it's going to be gone tomorrow. There are certain habits that I learned from growing up with people who like had stuff, but were just... it's another addiction, who are just addicted to spending money and showing money and telegraphing to the world like how well they were doing via what they could consume, what they could purchase. And I'm interested in if you have had to learn like different habits around spending or managing money, or if it's like, oh, I have a lot of money now, so I don't deal with those problems.
Nah, you know what? That's a great question because I can't run from it. I was trying to, but I can't. So, like for me, it's two things, and the two things are sort of at odds. One, I really like my politics is like Black people, like reduced. Like if you really reduce, like my philosophy and my politics is like Black niggas got to share with one another, like share resources, share stories. If comfortable, we got to share to make ourselves like stronger. More honest, heavier, blah, 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 blah. So I believe we have to share with one another. Like, I believe that as like, and I do, like, I don't know if anybody, if you know anybody who know me, like, motherfucker ain't never got to rob me. Because if you ask me for it, I'm going to give it to you. And I shouldn't say that shit because niggas be doing nigga shit and asking you for everything. But, like, I'm going to be the person that I wish I had and knew when I was a kid and be like, if I have it, it's yours, right? So there's that. But then the flip side of that is, like, there's still a part of me who thinks I don't deserve anything. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for me to give everything away, not to, like, machines, but to people, because in my heart, there's still that part of me that doesn't believe, like, I deserve. And part of that is because of, like, self-worth issues. Part of that is because of weight. But also part of that is because of what you said earlier, because sometimes I'm just worried about, like the politics of, like, how I got what I got. Like, I don't think there is any good money in this country. Right. You know what I mean? And it can be bad because you, like, fucking pimping black feminism. It can be bad because you fucking pimping leather, my nigga. Like, I think that shit is foul. But, like, if you don't believe you deserve no shit, you gonna find dumb and ingenious ways to get that shit away. And so I have more money than I've ever had in my life. But at the same time, I wonder about the politics of that, right? Like, I don't know, like I do not have children, and there are lots of people around me who do need. So I want to provide where I can, particularly like for young black folks doing art shit. I want to always provide what I can, but at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm not giving away everything I have because I don't think I'm worth shit. Mm-hmm. And that's just something I don't see many people like. I don't even know how to talk about it because I haven't seen that conversation modeled.
Oh, that is such a good. Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm way better than I was with my money, but, like, when I came off a book tour, like, I was down 37,000 because motherfuckers who I met, who I love, and who I know, and some people who I didn't know saw me as an author, and they were like, yo, you know, sign my book, but also, fam, can you help me? And, like, I just think those of us who can have to, but I also think those of us who can have to fucking think about, like, am I giving away all my shit because I don't think I'm worth shit, because I don't think I should have nothing. And I know there's a part of me that's like that, but even so, I ain't nowhere near that where I was with that gambling shit, my G. Like, I would fucking get paid at 12 o'clock a.m. and spend my entire check by fucking 12:25. Like the desire to fucking be broke and to struggle and to punish myself, which is so tied to all that shit we've been talking about before, about, like, doing people wrong. Like, I ain't got that same thing out there no more, but I still don't have, like, I'm not sure that I love and value myself, or I don't know if you should love money, or the shit that, like, my work has brought to me. I'm not sure I love it enough, but I do believe we got to share more. Yeah. I do believe that, but it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you have fears? I now that I am 30, I do worry sometimes about, like, oh, I don't want to be broke when I'm 60. But like, but that's
real.
That desire to not be broke when I'm 60 is competing with the desire to, I guess, prove to the world that I'm worth shit by, like, having nice shit. Like, I
hear that.
And it's a competing desire with my father died when he was 50, so I'm like, well, might not even make it to 60. So why am I holding on to this?
Yo, you talking too much real shit right now, because I don't know, my nigga. Like, I just turned 45. I never envisioned myself being this old, and I'm not trying to be on some old Biggie type Pac shit. Like, I don't really see I can never imagine me at 60. But, like, the problem with that sort of shit is, like, what does it dissuade in terms of loving relationships with yourself, with your work, with your partners, with the world, if you really, like, can put this finite thing on? You know, on one hand, you could be like, well, you know, I'm going to love as good as I can because I'm going to be out of here by 60, but I'd be sad about the fact sometimes that I don't think I'm going to make it. And you know what? Like, you making me think about some other shit is, like, you know, I used to not be fat. And when I was, like, you know what I think about a lot of times is, like, what it meant for this book to, like, do as well as it did, and for me to be, like, in my eyes, I'm not trying to fish for no compliment, in my eyes, just, like, you know, a fat, like, untraditionally, like, not traditionally attractive person, which means, like, if I was still like what people considered fine back in the day, I think, child, I don't even know, man. I don't even know if I have any money. I don't know if I would have any money. I'll be broker than a motherfucker, my nigga. One, because it's just hard to get the good clothes, you know. Anyway, I probably wouldn't have a dime. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have shit. Like, so you didn't ask that, but anyway, I just think that's a connection I didn't think about before. So.
No, that's really okay. That's okay. So, I've had many close relationships with men who have eating disorders or have body dysmorphia, and they don't even know it. And I can see it because I have those problems too. I am a binge eater, and I have body dysmorphic disorder. But they don't know, and so they'll do things, and I'll be like, oh, well, something's going on. But I also think one of the reasons why I can see it and they can't see it is because so much of the body positivity movement and fat acceptance movements and like Sonia Taylor's like radical self-love movement, so much of that is centered in women's lives and women's experiences. And so I'm wondering what needs to be done to like bring men into the fold, or is there a different kind of conversation that needs to be directed toward men about what needs to change?
I mean, there's a lot of things that need to change. One, like, we just need to read more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not one of these people who think, like, reading is the fucking, like, panacea to all problems. But when it comes to certain shit that's, like, rooted in a kind of, like, capitalist, like, patriarchal something, like, there's a lot of books out there that could help us, like, understand where we are. Another thing is going to therapy, right? Which I'm still scared to go to therapy. But, like, I know I'm body dysmorphic. Like, how do I know that shit? Because I've read fucking, like, lots and lots and lots of, like, primarily, like, black women talking about relationships with body. Yeah. And so one is that we just got to encourage folks to start reading shit that's about us and about that we don't know is about us from early ages. It's just really hard to get, all this talk about Chappelle and Kanye. Like, there's a lot of shit going on with them that has to do with like shit beyond, the outside. But some of it is that like these niggas just ain't read a lot of shit that came out in the last 20 years. And so that's just, what I'm saying? Like they just ain't reading no black women because like if you like the sensibility ain't changed from College Dropout to now, from the Chappelle Show to now. There's a lot of reasons for that, and so much has to do with like mental health and all of that shit. But also it has to do with like not fucking engaging with the ideas that are being put out there by motherfuckers who are like often much more smarter than you, much more dynamic than you, much more tender than you. And so the art is out there, but also not enough of the art is out there. So we have to encourage more and more people and give more and more people avenues to create work. Like, you talk about Sonya Renee. I just was reading like a chapter of her new book that's coming out this morning, and it was like, it's some shit I ain't never read in my life, So like, knowing that, I have to like not just assign that shit in my classes, but also gotta like start like, if I do have influence, rereading it one and wrestling with the shit, and also giving it to shit to motherfuckers who I know really need that, and being like, yo, let's talk about. I just feel like the book club is underrated. And that sounds so corny, but I just think like the book club is a kind of fucking like therapy for so many black communities out here. I did not know, but it's not. We still don't use the book club, I think we need like the album club. I don't think we create enough opportunities to get together, convene, and have loving, rigorous conversations guided by dope black art. I think that's some of what we need to do. Yeah.
I mean, it is fascinating to me that I'm not in close relationship with any man who is not ostensibly progressive, right? So like these are it comes up over and over again with even people who I would think have done the reading or who are at least adjacent to communities that are talking about these things. And maybe, I've talked other places about the culture of self-work, particularly among Black women, right? Like we are just encouraged and socialized to pick ourselves apart and say, what's wrong? What's going wrong here? How can I fix it? And maybe there's not that same culture among cisgender men, but it is just so fascinating when I'm like, you have a problem. And I've encountered it so prevalent. Like,
I mean, can I just? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to agree with you and say, like, the most, you know, being on tour now for this book for like over like a year, like the most astonishing thing to me. Well, there are two, but I'm not gonna talk about the second one. But the first one is like the number of fine ass black men looking like they could be on fucking the next Tyler Perry movie, coming up to me, whispering in my ear, talking about their like disordered eating and like how they don't know what to do about that shit. But like, I feel it, brother. Like, can you help me? And then I'm just like, oh yeah, let me try. You know, like, I've got to the point now where I give people some resources of where they can go, but like, it's some shit like I wouldn't even, as somebody who went through that shit, I still am shocked at the number of like diesel ass, lean, you know, fucking strong jawed men who come up to me at these readings and be like, fam, I think you see me. And what's also interesting is like most of those conversations that are about food and about body dysmorphia and about like men feeling like they can't be strong or lean enough. Also, like, there's often like an economic element they tie into it. Like, they'll talk about, you know, addiction to buying shit or gambling addiction and all this other kind of shit. And it's private. Like, they don't never say this shit in the question and answer session when it's up there. People don't raise their hand to talk about it. But in that line, my motherfuckers get up behind you. They put their hand on your shoulder and they be like, man, you probably wouldn't know it, but I went through something you went through. And I'm like, you know, and by now I know what they're saying, and it's often those men who, if you just look at that crowd, you'd be like, oh, that's the man everybody wants to look like, you know?
But you know what? I think it's two sides of the same coin. When we are socialized to look at a man with like a chiseled jaw or like abs or whatever and think that they have it all together. But because of the number of experiences that I've had, when I see a man with like a super chiseled jaw or like, and I'm not going to say what I was going to say, but I automatically assume something is going on. You are, the obsession that you have with perfecting your body is about something else. Now, because we have a fat phobic society, we live in a culture that despises fat people. We're socialized to view that as like the ideal, and we're supposed to be amazed by their discipline. But I usually interpret that, unless they prove me wrong, that there is something going on with your extreme focus that often is dysmorphia, but it's unnamed. It's a celebrated dysmorphia because we hate fat people so much.
Yes, man. So, nigga, that's a poster. Yep. I just agree. All I can say is I agree. That's it. That's what I'm saying. That's just true. That's just true.
Okay.
That shit is just true.
So to wrap it up, I was going to ask if you are going to therapy, but you already answered that. Do you have any plans on going to therapy?
Yeah. We're going to therapy as a family. In less than a month. Well, more than a month. And then I need to do the work actually to find a black therapist that I trust. And I need to do that for all my relationships, including my relationship with myself. So I haven't done that.
You sound a little iffy. I'm going to be honest with you. It sounds a little iffy.
I'm iffy, fam. I am. I'm trying to be honest with you. You ain't got a way of making. Yeah, I'm iffy because I'm so sort of skeptical of parts. I'm skeptical of finding loving black therapists who aren't overworked down here. But also, I think I'm skeptical of. More than skeptical. I'm just scared, you know. Shit, I'm just probably scared. I'm probably scared that shit gonna work, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right. So my last question is going to be: how is your relationship with your mother now?
My relationship with my mom is better. My mom is better than it's better probably than it's been past 20 years or so, but. We still we still will easily lie to one another, and I think we both still have a hard time taking care of ourselves, and we both of us definitely have a hard time asking for help. So we're better than we were, but we're not anywhere near healthy. But we're better than we were.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like I mentioned earlier, this has been up on Patreon for months, okay? So if you want first dibs on stuff like this, sign up for the Patreon, become a member. Y'all will all get it at the same time. And if you are a member, if you are a patron, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you enormously. If you have some stuff that you want to let me know, hit me up on Twitter. I am back. I know I said I wasn't going to be back, but I am back. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Instagram, down in the DMs. Sign up for the email newsletter. I hope you're taking care of yourself. It's a hard time. We're going to get through it. It's a hard time. I'll see you next time. Bye.